Good morning, and welcome back to the Vitality Project. I'm Dr. Bob. Yesterday, we shared in how it is that as dark as addiction and hitting bottom undoubtedly are, that our lives need not end there. In fact, something utterly miraculous may actually arise from the ashes of despair and devastation that follow on hitting bottom. As the poet that I quoted in an earlier podcast, Rumi, puts it, many demolitions are actually renovations. And that's really what we're talking about here. I promised yesterday to challenge you today with an exercise. I'd like to suggest that you please consider spending a good chunk of time today self-reflecting on any experience you've had of hitting bottom. Bring that back to mind, and then next trace this experience back as far as you can in terms of your own psychological development that may have led up to your hitting bottom. What we're thinking of here is our conversation about blueprints, lifelong patterns that may have led you as they led me, I believe nearly inevitably toward addiction, and for many of us, eventual breakdown. And I'm going to ask you to look at this a certain way. I want you to remember that you may well have been doing your best, even in active addiction, as you attempted to cope with past loss, past trauma. Could be around emotional neglect that you experienced early on, some form of ongoing abuse from your childhood, or perhaps some other form of trust having been betrayed from early in your own development. I'll tell you, several groups this week, I simply asked the question, can we go around the group and each one of us share a major betrayal of trust in our lives? And what I was struck by and deeply moved by is that every single individual could name something. For some of them, it was recent relationships. For many of them, it was childhood experiences over trust in a caregiver was completely broken. With this in mind, I'd like you to set down a plan, something you may already be doing or would wish now to do in addressing and changing the patterns that we just mentioned that you may have used in the past to deal with pain, the pain of loss, grief, trauma. I want to ask you to see if you can voice your own story, but this time without turning your hitting bottom into somehow being about you not being okay, you not being lovable, just as you are. Can you imagine with me that whatever loss you've experienced, that it may actually be preparing you for what the poet calls here today, renovation? Can you imagine that? I'd like you to come back tomorrow for more hope of transformation amidst the seeming darkness, even of hitting bottom. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you tomorrow.